Okay, so here, well, we've got an app that looks like a quiz app. So at least from what I saw in the structure, it seems to be like two sections, two main sections. One would be a section that actually are like lessons related to different topics, and each topic has like a list of words or expressions, I guess, and then they have like a audio file attached to them. So I guess the people who's learning can play the how it sounds like. And then there is like another section which is like a quiz. So basically this leads to this screen here, and no, here, sorry. And from here you can like navigate to a quiz kind of thing. So you can hear something, and then I guess you need to choose like the correct sound or something like that. So that seems to be it mostly. So I guess there is like a couple of different techniques we can apply here to try to make everything simpler, because there is like a bunch of different screens here.
I mean, it looks like you could massively reduce the number of screens, right? Because they could all be programmatic. You've got a lot of repeated screens. You know, even the structure. I mean, because really, if the structure, as long as the structure is the same, then the number of elements and even the background, the images can change, right? So, I mean, this could probably compress down to like, I don't know, a tenth of the number of screens, because so many of them are just repeated. It looks like they're repeated.
Yeah, definitely. Like, for instance, this, like there is 3 different screens here, actually 5, and it could be just one. So you could just have this connected to a list, even instead of. So actually, we can start there maybe. So this could be like the home page. Well, first thing here, there should be like a flow start point. So the app starts actually here, and then probably we can. Oh, sorry. We can just remove the other ones. Otherwise, there will be like issues when navigating through.
Yeah, makes sense.
Through the app. Well, in theory, there should be like another flow, but I cannot see it. Maybe it's like in another page now.
Maybe they removed it.
Yeah, probably. So at least it seems there is just one now, which should be here, and then. Well, we can start with this My Lesson section.
Well, would it make sense to create a new page and then just bring across the ones, because it's quite hard to see what's going on in this one?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that. Actually, it's a good practice, so we can just skip this one.
I mean, this is kind of. This is my default thing now. When you get a messy design, I tend to start with that, because I think it's easier to just kind of pull in the things you want to work with rather than have, you know, a page of like craziness. It's difficult to know what's going on that way.
Definitely. So, I mean, what we can do now is just copy maybe the home and the My Lesson screens. I will just try to find it here. Yeah, there is like a bunch of different screens, so we'll just try to simplify a bit. I mean, probably we won't have time to do all the thing, but
no, that's fine.
If we just saw maybe this section, probably the same can be applied for.
But one thing I found actually, I think if you click on the actual title of the screen on rather than the layers panel, if you click on the title and then if you click on that selects that one, and if you then select the title of the other one with a shift, you should be able to have both. Select both of them.
Oh, okay. I'll try
that one, and then shift click the title of another one.
Exactly. There we go.
And then you just copy those two together.
Okay, so we will start with this one. We can remove the extra links maybe, because there seems to be like 2 links, which shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
This is the backlink. This is good, but here there seems to be like this one. We can remove it, I guess. So actually, I guess it should be inside the group as well. Let's just move it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now we have like the whole group
That's much better.
is including the
That's
text.
nice. Good idea.
Okay, so now, well, this is the first screen that could be dynamically updated because we have like 5 list elements here. So what can be done here is just remove, like, just leave the first one. And basically, we can just I will just create. Oh, sorry.
Do you know, it'd actually be really cool if in the plugin we could select a list of elements like that. It would remove all of them, leave one, and then take all the data from the remaining ones and put it into Airtable.
Yeah, that would be great, definitely, to be able to connect. So, I mean, I will just leave them here for reference later, just to keep the information. But the main point is here, you can just leave one. And then this one could be connected to API. So you can get both, like, the image here, the text here. So you can actually dynamically update the list mostly. So then from here, well, we can just copy the. So this leads to another page, which is a list of different sounds that belong to its specific category here. So we can just copy one. Oh, sorry. Okay. And here, well, we will need to link this here and probably the back button as well. Okay. So this is another example of a static list that can be easily populated from API data. So it's the same. We could just remove all of this. And actually here we would have like, well, it seems like there is both an action, play, and pause element because that's the sound thing. And since we will want to create then a list with like a lot of sounds, we should leave this empty because we will get that sound URL from the API as well.
Nice.
So in order to do that, we need to leave this empty. Okay. Now it looks perfect. We can maybe just, I mean, this is not strictly necessary, but we can make this smaller as well. I mean, I don't know the exact height of the the template, but anyway. And here we have the container, which actually, okay, I'll do one thing. Because if now I make the container smaller, it's like this is being resized as well.
Yeah, we don't do that.
So maybe what I can do is just for now.
You could group them and then put them in. You could then click on the right-hand button and make a frame around this. You know that thing?
Actually, can you do it? Because I didn't get it. Do you have access to the file?
Let me have a look. Hold on. 1 second. Yes, I think I do. Oh, hold on. I just refresh. I think it's got
okay. It's the same. Yeah. Okay, you're in now.
Okay. So what are you trying to do with this right now?
I was just trying to make this container. I mean, it's, as I said, it's maybe not necessary, but just to make it as big as the. Well, actually, here it is necessary because then we will connect this to API and it will replicate. So you shouldn't leave like a big space underneath the element, you know.
Well, I mean, Yeah, I'm not sure that the one where you can move the elements out of this container and then resize it and put it
Yeah,
back in. That's probably the
I
simplest
was
way.
thinking about that. Actually, I will select this too because there is like an underlying pause action here. So I will just select them too, copy them out. Okay. Oh, and then now should be able to resize, I guess. Okay, yeah, there we go. Okay, now if I leave the same space like here and there, I mean, this should, yeah, should be good. And now we can move this back. Let's say here. We are into container, and then I mean, if we want, we can group them, but that's not totally necessary. Okay, so this looks good now. I mean, as I said, just this title and everything in here can be dynamically connected. So actually, we would have like two lists here. This would be actually we need to do the same here with a container because we will have like another other elements. So we have a list here, and this basically would carry a ID, could be like, I don't know, category ID, and this would be passed here in to this request here that would get a list for the elements that belong to this category. So we could update the category title and then, well, all the individual list elements here.
Yeah, that's super cool.
And yeah, so this way, basically, here we had like, well, on the first hand, like 5 different screens, one per category. That's like the first thing that can be simplified. And then also these lists like can be connected to API data, so we don't have like static amount of elements, and they can be just changed by changing the backend.
So we've gone from
if we want to add like more elements,
we've gone from like 8 screens down to 3.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And yeah, so that would be like, I mean, this section basically could be this. Just then we would need to like do all the API setup, but that shouldn't be a big problem. And then, I mean, oh, sorry. There is this other one. This one can be a bit more tricky because it seems like the user wants to do a setup with like, for instance, this would be the time category. So maybe its category would have like several screens in kind of a quiz way that, okay, the user chooses one thing here and then they navigate to the next one.
So, I mean, this would be something you could potentially do with that trick around the return codes, the HTTP return codes, right? So you could make it so that you could make it do, you have one of those screens, and then it would randomly pick an element from the database. And then depending whether they put right or wrong, it could make you do the next one that we randomly pick. So you would only need to have one screen and then go through it to do the quiz, right? So do you know what I mean? We had this a bit with the choose your own adventure one, wasn't it? That had the similar sort of thing where you kind of had a
exactly. So I mean, you could have like as you said, have the backend return an error code if the answer is not correct. And then, I mean, there could be like several actions you could do here. So first thing, this should be like remote actions. Not sure if the user set it up because it seems like for now there is like just these two states, but actually this should be a action remote because what we want to do is just send the information about what the user chose here.
Yeah. And so the idea would be is that to the action remote, you do, what would happen to that? Actually, you go on. What were you going to say? Okay.
No, sorry, I was just listening.
Well, I was just thinking that once you get to the screen, both the action remotes, well, you could do an interesting thing here. You can have action remotes so that it would go back to this screen again, but the back end would know it's been called the second time, so it would have different content. It would have a different audio file and a different quiz, a different text. And
exactly.
Then what the other thing you could also add to this is you could then have and you could keep doing this, and then when they've got to answered enough questions, then what you could add is you could then maybe have a conditional visibility of a button that says on the last one that says finish, which only appears on the last one. So it would enable you to kind of so all the different screens here would just go down to one screen with some conditional visibility on. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah, totally. I mean, actually, this would require a bit more complex backend setup than the other, but it's totally possible. And actually, that would be the ideal way to simplify screens at maximum. So we can just copy maybe one of. Yeah,
we should probably. I mean, this would be a good example for us to make, actually, wouldn't it? To have like a quiz with something like this going on, because I think there's a number of people that like to have, particularly when they're making content for their customers. Quizzes is quite a cool, nice thing to have when you want to test knowledge.
Yeah, definitely. We could do like a more complete tutorial, including backend setup. So, okay, now, well, first thing here, we should create a link from there to here. Well, we would actually need first this middle screen here, because this is where the user chooses the category they want to okay. So let's put this here. I mean, here the same, we can just remove these ones and connect them to API data. And then here we would have like this screen. So we can connect this way. And then, well, this flow start point, we should remove it. And I'm missing this link here. Okay. So basically this would be the same thing as here. And then, as we said, when we choose a category, we will navigate to a quiz screen. And then all this data, basically what we will do is trigger a remote action here. This would be like the two answers the user has. This would be a sound thing. Same thing, we will get this from API.
Yeah.
So actually, we can create a separate screen here showing maybe some guidelines on what needs to be done in the backend. So we will just do a skip thing, and here, okay. Okay. So first thing should be, I will make this a bit bigger. Okay. So well, first thing here actually would be that the user chooses a category, and then the backend returns one item in that category. That could be like the easiest way could be like sorting them in the backend and return the first one. And actually, an improvement could be to make the backend return a random one.
Yeah.
If that's set up properly. So backend returns, let's say quiz item of user chose here. And well, basically this quiz item would contain, I have a weird zoom now. I don't know. This is something my computer did. Well, anyway, I'll try to. This is one of those Mac gestures that I did
yes.
accidentally,
Yeah.
and now I don't know how to make
Zoom
it
back in,
go
zoom
back.
back out again.
Yeah,
I think it's normally, if you on a Mac,
yeah.
it's normally Command minus
Okay.
if you're in the browser.
But here the thing is, this is applying to the Figma
Oh, I see.
thing and not
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the.
That's the browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Well,
really.
let me try. Yeah, it's weird. Oh, I don't know. Well, anyway, I will try to manage. And then here there is like 2 remote actions. Can you see also this cut like on the sides, or is it just me?
Yeah, it's cut on the side too.
Uh,
Are
I
you
mean,
in? You in
I will do.
Safari?
I'm in Firefox. I will just do one thing and try to open it like in a separate. Yeah, there
Yes,
we
better.
go. Okay, so yeah, as I said, this would be like remote actions. And actually, something I realized we should do here is, since we will bind this to a API call, we need to indicate somehow, we need to pass to the backend what the user chose here. So there is 2 options. One would be like binding to different API requests. One of them sending like parameter, I don't know, option 1, and the other one option 2.
Yeah.
And the other way is actually use the same API call, but pass here a variable, which is, I think, cooler solution. So
Yeah.
it could be like, the way to create a variable here would be, so for instance, we'll call it solution. That will be the variable name, and the variable value would be like 1, for instance.
Yeah.
And then here, so it would be like 2. And I'm missing the column here.
Yeah, yeah.
And basically, then in the API call, we will need to create a variable. If it's like a post request in the JSON body, for instance, that whose name is solution. So we should surround it with like the Bravo kind of syntax to create variables. And then this will be like either 1 or 2 will be passed to the backend depending on what the user chose here. So, I mean, then let's say a request sent user response bound to remote action. So when the user chooses one of them, there will be a remote action, and then remote action response should be a refresh. And then the other thing we need to do here is, for the refresh, make the backend, because the refresh will mean that there will be a new GET request, but then the backend will need to return another item, which could be like this next one. So return next item. And then, well, as we said, like if there are, for instance, 5 items, so after all quiz items are sent, we could apply conditional visibility. So we will create now, or yeah, to display and screen. So what we could do is, for instance, we have here the elements that will be like the remote action. So these ones, we should bound them to a visibility conditional that will return true if there are still like more items left. And then what we can do is create a separate, we will just do it simple. We will detach the instance, and we will put it out of the group. Okay. So we like finish button. So we can say something like please finish. back to home. Go back to home page.
Actually, another way of doing this would be to have two other buttons over the today, tomorrow buttons, and those ones redirect to home, so that on the last question, it automatically finishes, if you see what I mean. So the buttons will do the same thing in terms of redirect and answer the question, but rather than refresh this page, it changes the behavior to redirect it when you make the visibility appear. Do you understand what I mean? So effectively, so basically the today tomorrow button, so that button you've just done, instead of just being, because if you think of the UI, it's going to work. What will happen is you'll press the answer, and then you'll press the answer, and we need the redirect on the redirection to change, right? So we could make the condition available on these buttons to have another set of buttons which appear for the last question, which will actually make it go to a different basically finish the quiz.
Yeah, so actually what I wanted to do is have that separate button that only shows when there are no more items left, and hide these ones. But I mean, we can
sorry, okay, that's another way of doing it, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we can just okay, I will do the same thing here. We can just do a normal group and finish. Okay, so we can just put this one below here. And actually, well, if we hide these ones, we could even display some kind of text here, quiz finished or something.
Back stuff
home. So basically, if we use conditional visibility here, this will be hidden all time if the quiz is not finished, and we will have this too. And then when the quiz is finished, this will be hidden, and we will see just this. And actually here, we should probably create a link. Could be like a link to okay. Here.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that people don't realize is conditional visibility allows you to actually have a lot of control over the logic of the actual application.
Yes, yes. Actually, it's very cool because you can even control navigation.
Yeah, I mean, some people have used the status screens to do that, but I think conditional visibility also works. The only downside of conditional visibility, obviously, is it's kind of that part of the navigation is hidden because it's really done in Bravo rather than here. So you end up with some of the navigation being controlled separately, so you can't always see what's going on, but it does give you a lot of flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the cool thing about it. And actually, I mean, these play and pause buttons should be also hidden if the quiz is finished, and everything maybe, even the bar here, or the bar could be 5 to 5, something like that. And then, this way you can have different elements in the same screen. And well, we simplified. Basically, I mean, this would require all that backend setup, but that's doable with the proper backend tool. And then basically you would have here, well, all these bunch of screens could be simplified.
Yeah,
basically.
I mean, you've now gone from I don't know, 10 screens, 15 screens down to 4 or 5. So it makes it much simpler. Okay. Very cool. Nice job. Okay. Yep. So do you want to talk about, was the other thing you want to talk about, the multi-state?
Yeah. That's another one we can be useful for many people. Well, as we saw, this conditional visibility thing is quite powerful when it comes to creating things that in theory cannot be created with simple components, but just setting up a bit out of the box can be quite powerful to unlock new use cases. So here, I mean, this is just a screen of an app we created. This would be a page that displays information about an event. And this app would be would have a login, so its user would have its own user ID. Yeah. And then basically its user would be able to book an event. And there are 3 different states. for this. One could be that the user hasn't booked the event, but there are still slots left, so they can still reserve place in the event. Another state would be like the user has already booked this event, so there should be a message saying, okay, you already booked it. And the third one would be that the user didn't have a chance to book, but unfortunately it's sold out or booked out, so they cannot book it anymore.
Okay.
And this would mean like you could have 3 different states for this button, and our native stateful component just has like an active and a default value, so it will be like a toggle between 2 states. But you can actually add 3 different states if you use visibility conditional. So basically this would mean like by default you will see probably this state here. If the user has already booked the event, you will see this. And if the event is booked out, you will see like something like that. And this would mean like for each event, the backend should be returning like true or false values for each of these states. So there should be just one state active all the time, because you cannot be in more than one situation of this. So there should be just one. And so basically this way you can toggle this between like these three states depending on the status for each user and each event.
So the advantage of normally with states currently you can only have 2 states, right? But the advantage of that is when you press it immediately updates without necessarily having to wait for an API call to come back.
Yeah, so that would be the advantage of using the stateful component. Here, what we will need to do is actually do a refresh. That's the downside of it. But on the other hand, you can have like 5, 6, 7 states if you want.
Any number of states,
quite powerful.
I mean, so that's the advantage of it. Kind of. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool.
And actually here, another advantage here is that, for the stateful component, you will always be able to toggle from like on to off, kind of. But here, if I book an event, I shouldn't be able to like go back to the previous state because the event is already booked. So, I shouldn't be seeing this anymore. I should just see this until the event is finished or whatever. So what you can do is actually attach a remote action to the first state, because that's where the user actually has a chance to do something. And when it's done, this should be just a UI element with no action. So you can control that as well, because with the stateful one, you would be able to like, when you press on it, you would go back to the other state. So it would be like always like that.
Yeah. And
this way you have more control on what you can do here. So that's another advantage.
That's very cool. And so the way this works is, so the first one is default action remote, which does the booking. If that booking works, it will turn off the default button and turn on the active one, right?
Exactly. So you will see this.
And
then
so
the third option. Yeah, sorry.
So then the action remote in Bravo, you need to do a refresh action, right? So you need to refresh.
Exactly. And you should be returning the true state for this button. So basically how it works is you have a conditional property for each of those, for all UI elements, and you can bind them to a Boolean data, which is like either true or false. So if the backend returns a true, it will be displayed, but if the backend returns a false, it will be hidden. Okay. So in this case, with the remote action, you should make the backend return false for this one, which previously would be like true, and true for this one, so this one shows up basically.
Okay, so they flip out, and then if another action occurs and it runs out, then when you refresh the page, the booked out appears, so it stops it being, and that won't have any action at all. Yeah. Nice, that's pretty cool.